We're going to learn about a very special person and his unique vision. He was a deeply spiritual man who believed that violence was never the answer to accomplishing your goals. He felt that nonviolence was the way to a better future, and that love for all races and religions would pave the way for world peace. His words and deeds influenced civil rights leaders, such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. He was considered a saint by some and an obstacle by others. But by preaching and practicing passive resistance, he was able to win the freedom of his native country of India. His name was Mohandas K. Gandhi, and this is his story.
Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869, the youngest of 4 children, in the town of Porbandar in the country of India. This was his first home. He was born in a time when India was an official colony of Great Britain. This meant that Great Britain ruled India. All of the laws were British laws, and a British viceroy acted as the president of the country. Gandhi was born into an upper-middle-class family. His father, Karamchand, was the Diwan, or Prime Minister of Porbandar, as his grandfather before him had been. This was a position that was passed from father to son. His father was a loving, forgiving man and also a strict vegetarian. His mother, Putliba, was a highly religious person of the Hindu persuasion. She attended temple every day. She was a peaceful woman who also practiced vegetarianism and often went on starvation strikes as a form of nonviolent protest. Gandhi was a bright child but didn't do particularly well in school. He once said, "It was with particular difficulty that I got through my multiplication tables. The fact that I recollect nothing more of those days than having learnt along with other boys to call our teacher all sorts of names would strongly suggest my intellect was sluggish." By the time he was 13 years old, he was attending Alfred High School and was ready to be married. His parents had arranged a marriage for him at birth, as was customary of Hindu beliefs of the time. The young lady he married was also 13 years old and was named Kasturba. Gandhi was a controlling husband at first, always wanting to know where his wife was going and when she would be back. This would change as their lives and marriage progressed. He wondered what else the world had to hold for him than what his parents showed him. He wondered what things were outside the world of vegetarianism and religion. He briefly experimented with eating meat when one of his friends convinced him that it would make him strong like the British. He decided he didn't like eating meat and confessed his sin to his father. His father received his confession with love and understanding, not violence or anger. He also stole money from one of his servants to buy cigarettes and stole gold from his brother. These things he also confessed and found the same gentle manner in his father that he had before. Gandhi admired his father for his compassion and wanted to be like him in many ways. Gandhi's father fell ill when Gandhi was just 16. It was Gandhi's job to watch his father while sleeping to make sure he didn't have any trouble. Gandhi grew tired of watching his father sleep and snuck upstairs to be with his wife. It was during one of these moments that Gandhi's father died. A few weeks later, his pregnant wife lost their child. Gandhi always felt ashamed and responsible for abandoning his father at this time, and that the death of his first child was punishment for it.
The death of his father affected Gandhi deeply. He himself wanted to follow in the footsteps of his father and grandfather and become a leader of his people. So he decided that he would go to law school in Great Britain. This trip would require him to leave his wife for 3 years. In August of 1888, he left Bombay to board a ship bound for Britain. It was during his years in law school that he began reading different religious books. He began discovering the person within himself. His thoughts began to shape a view of the world in which all people were equal and free, a world united in peace, love, and truth.
When Gandhi first arrived in Great Britain, he tried to fit in by wearing proper suits and speaking English, but he always preserved some of his own culture beneath his shiny new clothes. He became a member of the Vegetarian Society of Great Britain and wrote for the Vegetarian Society Journal. His new interest in different religions and culture systems caused him to relinquish his strong devotion to Hindu beliefs and accept that he was a member of no particular religion. Gandhi graduated law school with more knowledge of the world and how it worked than he did about law. In 1891, he moved back to his hometown, only to discover that his mother had died only a few weeks before his arrival home. He tried to practice law in India, but found it difficult to get ahead there. His first son was born in October of 1892. Feeling that he couldn't succeed in India, he took a case in Johannesburg, South Africa. The new ideas Gandhi formed in Great Britain began to solidify in South Africa as Gandhi went through several eye-opening experiences. Upon his arrival in Durban, South Africa, he was given a first-class ticket on the train to go to his first case in Pretoria. Once he was seated on the train, he was asked by the conductor to move into a baggage car to ride. He was physically forced out of first class because he was an Indian. In the eyes of the South Africans, Indians were a lower class of people. He was placed in a cold room overnight for his refusal to move, and his luggage was locked up. In his autobiography, years later, he recalled the incident, saying, "The hardship to which I was subjected was superficial, only a symptom of the deep disease of color prejudice." Gandhi quickly realized that Indians in South Africa were being oppressed and treated unfairly. There were over 90,000 Indians in South Africa at the time, all of which had little or no rights. It didn't take long for him to become outraged over Indian conditions in South Africa, and he soon began fighting for their rights. He became a leader of the South African Indian community and encouraged freedom and equality for all. This was the beginning of South Africa's Indians battling for their rights and equality. Gandhi directed the Indians to protest in a non-violent manner, to get their point across with protests and rallies, not attacks and bombings. In doing so, he developed a full belief that non-violent protest was the only way to achieve peace. In an effort to make a non-violent statement, he organized petitions for Indian rights and newspaper publicity against anti-Indian laws. He distributed pamphlets and brochures across South Africa, Great Britain, and India. He was instrumental in setting up the Natal Indian Congress. They peacefully protested for Indian rights in South Africa. Gandhi wished to return to his home for a while and be with his wife, Kasturba, and be with the Indian people, helping them to win freedom from repression and racism.
By the time Gandhi arrived back in India, he was excited to begin leading his own people in peaceful progress. He wanted to liberate India from Britain and gain independence for all his people.
He immediately began to publicize Indian injustices and spread the news of self-empowerment and self-reliance. While in India for 6 months, he created a flurry of Indian support. He soon took his wife and 2 sons aboard a steamer for South Africa. When this steamer arrived, the Indians on board were not allowed to exit onto shore. They were forced to stay on board for weeks. Gandhi commented on the people he was being held by, saying, "I have no anger against them. I'm only sorry for their ignorance and narrowness." When Gandhi finally was allowed on shore, he was attacked by a mob of South Africans that didn't want him or Indians in general to come into their country. The angry mob chanted to hang him from a sour apple tree. Gandhi did not let the incident bring him down. He used the event as a sort of bargaining tool with the Natal Congress to get a law passed that allowed for equal voting rights for all British citizens, and this included the Indians. This had been one of Gandhi's main goals all along. Gandhi began to see that he must act as an individual who was reliant only upon himself. His example would become the standard for many Indians. In 1889, a war broke out in South Africa between Boer settlers and Great Britain. This war obligated all British citizens to help in the war effort. This included the Indians of the British Empire. Gandhi despised war and was unwilling to serve as a soldier. Instead, he joined a special unit, a peaceful group of Indian men called the Indian Ambulance Corps. This was a dedicated group of men who carried wounded soldiers to safety. Gandhi was later awarded a medal for his service in the war. In 1903, Gandhi started a South African magazine for Indians called Indian Opinion. This paper was written in English and in 3 Indian languages, including Gandhi's native tongue. The magazine provided information about Indian political rights and goals, as well as sanitary and dietary advice. Gandhi used the success of the magazine to set up a communal farm called an ashram to run the magazine from. This was Gandhi's first ashram, but it would not be his last. It was called the Phoenix Ashram. He decided to take the Hindu vow called brahmacharya, which was a pledge to cast off wealth, sex, anger, hatred, and to speak softly. Gandhi gave up all this and opened his arms to all people. He vowed to treat his family no different than anyone else. He vowed to lead through example. The South African government soon proposed a law called the Asiatic Registration Bill. This bill would force all Indians and Chinese to register and be fingerprinted with the local government. It also required them to carry papers at all times to prove they had done so. If they didn't, it would result in imprisonment. In response to what Gandhi called the Black Bill, he staged a meeting in Johannesburg. At this meeting, thousands of Indians pledged to refuse to register. They pledged that they would face jail, beatings, and even death in this refusal. Most of them certainly would come to experience all of these things. This pledge became a movement. This movement became known as Satyagraha, which means firmness, truth, and love in a good cause. It was the first time that Gandhi had helped organize a pacifist movement. Gandhi took a delegation of Indians to Great Britain to meet with notable politicians like Winston Churchill in an effort to strengthen his movement. Gandhi's meetings caused the bill to be resigned temporarily, but it was reintroduced again in 1907 and became law. The government began to arrest Indians who refused to comply with the law. Gandhi was arrested for the first time and in 1908 was sentenced to 2 months in prison. Gandhi used his time in prison to read and learn. A book he read at this time heavily influenced him. It was called Civil Disobedience and was written by the American naturalist and author Henry David Thoreau. The prisons in South Africa were soon overflowing with Indians arrested for their defiance of the Black Bill. Gandhi decided to work out a compromise with the government. He was told that if Indians would register voluntarily, the law would be repealed. Under this assumption, he went and registered as the law called for. Some Indians found this a betrayal, and he even suffered beatings at the hands of his own followers. The law, however, was not repealed, and struggle and protest continued. Gandhi, along with many others, was jailed again. He began reading the works of the famed Russian author Leo Tolstoy, and the two of them started exchanging letters. When he was released, he opened a new ashram called the Tolstoy Farm near Johannesburg. New laws were continually being passed that repressed the Indians. One of these proclaimed that only Christian marriages would be recognized by the state. The Indian community protested this law, and many of them were jailed again. Gandhi enlisted the help of all Indians in this movement against the marriage law. he encouraged women to leave their traditional roles in the house and get out and help the cause. He wanted women to be empowered and to no longer be repressed. Through a series of protest marches, strikes, and some keen negotiations led by Gandhi, the law was changed slightly to allow for Hindu and Muslim marriages to be legal, as well as Christian marriages. Gandhi proved for the first time that his form of pacifist protest worked.
Gandhi had learned that peaceful means could be used to unite all people and to reach political goals. He soon returned to India. Unfortunately, he found that things in his native country were just as bad as they were in South Africa. Most of his people were peasants, and their rights were continually being stripped away. Gandhi returned home to a general atmosphere of disgust for British rule.
In 1915, he founded the Satyagraha Ashram. Much the same as his other ashrams, it was a place where people of all faiths, creeds, and social classes could come and live communally in peace. He rapidly spread his message throughout India. In 1919, in response to oppressive laws, Gandhi organized a huge strike and march in Bombay. The entire country marched in their respective hometowns. Huge crowds swelled the streets of the cities of India. In one town, Amritsar, people gathered in this small square. British military forces opened fire upon these unarmed citizens. 379 people were killed and over 1,000 were injured. Indians were outraged across India, and revenge was the first thought of most of them. Gandhi urged that revenge was not the answer. The answer lay in peaceful protest. Gandhi used the incident to unite all classes and religions of Indians under one cause, the pursuit of freedom. All of India was soon rallying around him. For years to come, he led many revolts and protests and was jailed repeatedly. New British laws preventing Indian home rule caused Gandhi to prompt a nationwide strike. This strike resulted in many deaths and violence. Gandhi felt people were missing the point of Satyagraha. He would punish himself by fasting. In 1920, Gandhi formed the All India Home Rule League. This organization strove for equality and freedom. He also became leader of the Indian National Congress. In the early 1920s, he used his influence to cause all Indian soldiers to quit British service. He was imprisoned, along with 30,000 other Indians for his insolence. Whether Gandhi was imprisoned or not, the marches and protests continued, but some of them were turning violent. In one march, 22 policemen were killed for trying to stop the demonstration. It seemed as though violence could emerge at any moment in India. Gandhi came to realize the futility of Satyagraha and called off the movement. In the mid-1920s, Gandhi wrote his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth. He finally realized that total independence from Britain was the only way to peace in India. In 1930, Gandhi protested a law concerning salt production in India. The British government had passed a law making the collection and sale of salt illegal for anyone except them. In protest, Gandhi planned a walk that would stretch out over 200 miles of India to the Arabian Sea. He began this march with only 80 followers. Because of Gandhi's age, they only traveled 10 miles a day. The journey to the sea lasted 24 days, which gave all of India and the world a chance to see his defiance. By the time he reached the sea, he had gathered thousands of followers. He picked up some salt from the shore and proclaimed that it was a symbol of his defiance of the British government rule. This was in clear defiance of the law. He encouraged others to do the same. This event would become known as the Salt March. This act was intended as a sign for all Indians to do the same. This march marked the dawn of Gandhi's new anti-violence movement. Over 100,000 Indians were arrested after this for following his lead. Because of the brave protest of countless Indians, the law was reluctantly repealed. In 1931, Gandhi went to Great Britain to attend the Round Table Conference. This was a political meeting concerning the rights of India. In Great Britain, he stayed in the poorest hostels in the worst parts of town. He met with textile mill workers and gained their favor. He was even invited to tea at Buckingham Palace. He wore his hand-spun clothing to this meeting, and when asked later about it, said that the king was wearing enough clothes for both of them. After the conference, Gandhi returned to India and was almost immediately imprisoned along with 30,000 other Indians. He soon came to understand that India's people must be united. All social and class borders must be broken down. He once fasted for the rights of India's second-class Hindus, known as the untouchables, to worship in the same temples as the wealthier Hindus. He succeeded in this, and all classes of Hindus were united in temples, around dinner tables, and all over India. Gandhi spent most of the 1930s traveling around India, speaking to the people, helping his ever-increasing group of followers to purify themselves and then work on the rest of the world. Huge prayer meetings were common at which Gandhi spoke on subjects such as healthcare, reorganization, building of small businesses, and land ownership. In 1939, World War II broke out across Europe. Gandhi urged Indian people not to take part in the violence of war. As a result, many Indians were arrested and imprisoned for their defiance. In 1942, Gandhi started a new campaign aimed at Indian independence and uniting all religions together. He was soon imprisoned again, and in protest, fasted nearly to death. A few years later, in 1944, Gandhi's wife, Kasturba, passed away while in prison. He was completely distraught with his wife's death. It was during this terrible time in his own life that India was falling into more terrible times of her own. Strained relations by the Hindus and Muslims of India compounded the sorrows that arose in Gandhi's own life. The trouble between these two religious sects was escalating in the light of the newfound Indian self-reliance and the hope that India might one day be free. Throughout India, the Muslims and Hindus began to square off, and the Muslims demanded that they be given their own country. This country would be named Pakistan. Gandhi was sad to see his homeland suffer such divisions. He taught unity, but the people were not unified. He was still not swayed from his pursuit of Indian independence. Despite widespread controversy, the last Viceroy of India, Lord Mountbatten, declared Pakistan its own country in 1947. In this same year, India won its independence from Great Britain through peaceful, non-violent methods. On August 15, 1947, India was finally free. Yet the violence between Muslims and Hindus continued. Gandhi, who was living in Calcutta, declared again that he would fast to death if the violence did not stop. He wanted the Muslims and Hindus united in peace. The message that Gandhi preached of nonviolence was slowly being lost for the moment, but not forever. On January 30th, 1948, Gandhi was assassinated while walking to his daily prayer meeting in the garden of Birla House. A Hindu fanatic approached him in a crowd, bowed to him, and shot him 3 times until he was dead. India grieved for Gandhi. Never had it needed his leadership more. His presence had left them, but his message would endure. Gandhi had succeeded in freeing India and its people without the use of violence or oppression. An elaborate funeral was held. Gandhi's body was visited by thousands of Indians. His few possessions were gathered together. In the Hindu tradition, These objects would be burned along with the body of Gandhi in a huge funeral pyre. His ashes were then led in a procession to the water, where they were taken by boat out into the sea and scattered upon the waves.
Gandhi's life was a tribute to what he believed to be the only ideals acceptable to human beings. He believed in absolute truth, the unity of all people, and the right of every man to be free. His method of passive resistance and nonviolence influenced generations of leaders to come. Gandhi lived in such a manner that served as an example to all the people of India and can be used as a good standard for people everywhere. Gandhi, who was often called Mahatma or Great Soul, believed that peace was the key to change and that love and trust were the cornerstones of life.